the role of government. We had a case study from Estonia, a digitally fit country, and we can pick some lessons from some of these markets. But let's contextualize them for Kenya, and let's also bring them home and not necessarily copy and paste. As the day grew towards the end, we had a panel that looked at the trends in data protection. And the word awareness again came up. Awareness in the new act, opportunities for us to strengthen that act as users, as practitioners. Implementation has been. And we agreed, ladies and gentlemen, that the act is here to stay. So what that means is that whichever dimension you look at it, we have to start embarking on that compliance journey. Now, today is a very exciting day. If you look at your programs online, amongst the speakers that are about to come up, we'll be looking also at now unleashing the true power of domains. In the education sector, we'll have a voice from government. And for those of us who are here to make money, what are the monetization opportunities around domains? Question I get asked oftentimes, and we have the experts to help us unpack this. My call to action for today, those who are online, we hope you'll engage us. We'll have an opportunity for us to ask questions. And for those who are here in person, I hope you make new friends. I indeed already have made a new friend, and on my table I was just discussing with a registrar and people who want to understand more about the domain. So let's all learn together, let's commune, and let's close deals. Let's do business, because inherently we want to unleash the opportunities that we see. As I sum up my recap and the tone for today, I'd like to take this opportunity to also thank our sponsors. They've continued to work with us this journey, and I'll mention them very quickly. We have Internet Society, who are represented here, Konza Technopolis, and we have their leadership who will be joining us this afternoon, ICANN, Asanteni Sana, Liquid, Kenneth, Pax, and Tespoc. So a big hand to our sponsors for this event. It now gives me great pleasure to introduce our first speaker for the day, who I don't want to say he's representing royalty, but we all are feeling the royalty presence in Kenya. I was asking him earlier if he was able to maybe sneak in royalty, but he said not possible. They have a very busy schedule. But I'm delighted today, ladies and gentlemen, to introduce to you the first secretary at the British High Commission, who spends a lot of his time thinking about cybersecurity on the continent and in Kenya as a diplomat. And he will share some themes that are emerging for us to pay attention to. So put your hands together to Mr. Chadwick, who will be speaking on the future of cybersecurity. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Andrew. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, and fellow cyber and digital professionals, good morning. Habari za asubuhi. I won't continue in Swahili, don't worry. It'll be in English. So a quick introduction for those of you who don't know me. I'm Andy Chadwick. I'm the UK government lead for cyber, covering the whole of Africa. But I'm based here in Nairobi, Kenya, at the British High Commission. I'm actually on loan to the Foreign Office from the UK's National Cyber Security Centre. So I'm a techie, I understand DNS very well, and my career's developed to now become what we call a cyber diplomat. So as I mentioned, I have a remit for cyber diplomacy, and cyber capacity building across the whole continent, but Kenya is really a special priority partner in the region. And I'm very honored to have been invited to present this morning's keynote speech on the future of cybersecurity in Africa. In an age where technology has become an integral part of our daily lives, the importance of cybersecurity cannot be overstated. Africa, with its diverse and rapidly evolving digital landscape, faces unique challenges and opportunities also in this field. And this morning, I'd like to briefly share with you my view of what the future of cybersecurity holds for the African continent. Just that way. It's blocking the view. So Africa has experienced a significant digital transformation in recent years, as we all know, with the proliferation of mobile devices and internet access. The continent is becoming more interconnected than ever before. As more Africans come online, the potential for innovation, economic growth, and social development is enormous. However, the increased connectivity also brings new threats and vulnerabilities that we must address. And the future of cybersecurity in Africa will undoubtedly involve a continuous battle against a growing number of cyber threats. As the continent becomes more connected, cyber criminals are taking advantage of the expanding attack surface. We will undoubtedly continue to see an increase in cyber attacks, including phishing, ransomware, theft of intellectual property, denial of service attacks, nation-state espionage, so advanced persistent threats, APT, that some of you will be aware of, and data breaches, and other malicious activity which target not only individuals and organizations, but also national governments. And these attacks can have a devastating impact on individuals, businesses, and governments, and also on national security. And for a variety of reasons, the insider threat is particularly prevalent in Africa, where more needs to be done in securing the human aspects of cybersecurity, including implementing more robust ethical processes and procedures, oversight and vetting of staff. Insider threat, without doubt, is a growing issue across the whole region. One of the most pressing challenges in the future for African cybersecurity is the shortage of skilled personnel, so skilled professionals in the cybersecurity domain. The demand for experts in this field far exceeds the supply. It is imperative that we invest in education and training programs to nurture a new generation of African cybersecurity professionals to close this huge skills gap. Governments, educational institutions, and private sector organizations must collaborate to bridge this skills gap and build a robust, ethical cybersecurity workforce covering a broad range of skills, not only technical, but also around governance, regulation, communications, ethical behavior, and education, and other themes as well. So it's not technical. There are a broad range of roles and skills needed for the future. To secure Africa's digital future, public-private partnerships will be instrumental. Governments must work more closely with the private sector to establish comprehensive cybersecurity strategies and regulations. Such collaborations can create a safer digital environment by sharing cyber threat intelligence, best practice, and resources. And the future of African cybersecurity will also see an increased focus on innovation and research. As homegrown tailored African solutions to cyber threats become more critical, we must encourage and support cybersecurity research and development within the continent. We are witnessing new and developing threat vectors, such as in the areas of AI, so artificial intelligence and machine learning, quantum computing, 5G mobile networks, Internet of Things, smart cities, cloud computing, mobile resilience, supply chain threat, and I can go on. But these threats are critical to national infrastructure. We have things like disinformation and then new hybrid threats that we've still not yet seen or imagined as these synergies between the different technologies evolve at a really rapid pace. So local innovation can help address these dynamic, unique challenges and empower Africans to take control of their digital destiny and security. Promoting cybersecurity awareness is another vital aspect of securing Africa's digital future. Education campaigns should target individuals, organizations, and government institutions, raising awareness about the risks and best practices for online security. This should be aimed at every level, from school children, rural communities, disadvantaged groups, government employees, including diplomats, and the general public. Empowered with knowledge, African citizens can better protect themselves and their digital assets. The African continent is incredibly diverse with varying levels of cybersecurity maturity. Collaborative efforts at a regional level can help harmonize cybersecurity standards, share resources, and address common challenges. African nations should unite to strengthen the continent's overall cybersecurity posture. The UK government is supporting this collaborative work through the African Union, the Commonwealth, and other institutions promoting intra-African collaboration on cybersecurity. And we are seeing thematic centers of excellence being established across the region, which will provide useful points of best practice and collaboration going forward. Lack of resources is another continual challenge that can often be addressed by cooperation with donor nations who have cyber capacity building projects. But coordinating these efforts is crucial to the success and impact of these programs. To stay one step ahead of cyber threats and malicious actors, organizations need to ensure that solid cybersecurity controls are in place. Preparation in areas such as incident response planning, penetration testing, cyber crisis exercising are essential. And these practices involve simulating cyber attacks to identify vulnerabilities and weaknesses. And by adopting a proactive approach to cybersecurity, African businesses and governments can become more resilient to the threats and be better prepared for the inevitable malicious cyber incidents. It is very much a case of when, not if, and it is essential to be prepared on how to deal with and quickly recover from a cyber incident. Cybersecurity regulations will play a pivotal role in securing Africa's digital future. And governments must establish clear and comprehensive frameworks to ensure that organizations meet minimum security standards. Compliance with these regulations should be enforced to protect sensitive data and critical infrastructure. This also extends to international governance and compliance. So having structures in place to promote a free, open, peaceful and secure cyberspace is essential. This is exactly why the work of KENIC in managing and administrating the KE top-level domain, alongside allied partners such as TESPOC, Internet Society, KICTANET, ICANN, Africa TLD, and others, I can go on, but it's really critical to the success and security of the digital economy of Kenya and the whole continent. And finally, the reason why I'm based here in Africa, international cooperation. Cybersecurity knows no borders, and African nations must actively participate in international cybersecurity cooperation. By engaging with global initiatives and organizations, Africa can gain valuable insights and support in tackling cyber threats that transcend national boundaries. Organizations such as the GFCE, the Global Forum on Cyber Expertise, FIRST, the Forum of Incident Response and Security Teams, Africa CERT, Interpol, the ITU, the Commonwealth, and many others are fundamental and key partners in this joint endeavor to promote our joint prosperity and security in the future. So in conclusion, the future of cybersecurity in Africa is both promising and challenging. As we move forward in this digital age, we must be vigilant in protecting our digital assets, personal information, and critical infrastructure. The path to a secure African cyberspace lies in collaboration, education, innovation, and a commitment to building a resilient cybersecurity ecosystem. So let us work together to shape a brighter and more secure digital future for Africa, one that fosters innovation, economic growth, and social development, while keeping our digital lives safe and protected. Thank you.
We can take a question or two for the question.
Thank you, Andy, for that keynote. Just right off the blocks, yesterday ICANN shared with us some of the key initiatives that they're driving across Africa, especially for upcoming TLDs. You've touched on some of the support the British government is giving through the AU and the Commonwealth. Specifically for Kenya, I'm aware of course, the bilateral relationship we have with the British government. Any specific programs for Kenya around cybersecurity? And it doesn't have to include a registry like ourselves, but the broader public sector and the private sector.
Yeah, thanks, Andrew, for that question. So we're doing quite a broad range of programming across Africa, but in Kenya particularly, we're running a thing called the Africa Cyber Program. And there are two main strands of work in Kenya. The first one being around law enforcement and criminal justice system. So this week, we have experts from the UK training DCI on digital forensics in Nairobi this week. We're also going to be training prosecutors from ODPP and the judiciary on digital evidence handling later this year. We are running a second stream of work, which is looking at cyber awareness. So we're partnering with Kictonet, and there may be people from Kictonet here, but we find them a very reliable and close ally of ours in human rights online and with cyber awareness. So we're running a cyber awareness program. We're launching a cybersecurity toolkit for SMEs, for small businesses, which will be an online portal. I can share links with that if anybody's interested. So yeah, we're doing that to support the digital economy. Next week, we're running a national cyber risk assessment with Kenya. This is something I've been trying to do for several years, to be honest. But I think mines were focused a bit earlier in the year when we had the DDoS attacks on government services. So we're running a national cyber risk assessment, looking at C&I sectors. That kicks off next week and will run through to the end of March to provide that national level risk assessment. We're also doing incident response training with KE-CERT and other government departments via NC4. We're working also with, Ministry of ICT, ICT Authority and others to do that incident response training. There are plans for a Kenya visit back to the UK to look at national level cyber. So with the idea of setting up a national cyber security agency for Kenya. And then there will be further training on cyber threat intelligence in the new year. So we're really busy in Kenya. That's just a few of the things we're doing. We're doing some other stuff as well around digital access and innovation for the High Commission. And we have plans to do to establish some cyber diplomacy training as well, to train the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and other government officials here in the world of digital and cyber diplomacy. So how that works at the United Nations and the ITU on standards, future cyber governance treaties, future cybercrime treaties. So there's quite a lot going on in Kenya. I only spend about 30% of my time on Kenya. I have a team that covers the whole of Africa. But Kenya is a priority country for us. And we're now planning Africa Cyber Program 2.0, which will kick off next April. And we're now talking to NC4 and other bits of government about what that programming will look like, which themes we're going to cover. So we're open to suggestions and ideas, and please feed into Kenyan, government of Kenya and NC4, who we primarily, fit in with. That's who we normally work with. So yeah, hope that answers your question.
Thank you very much, Mr. Andy Chadwick. We have one more question from Joel.
You mentioned demand exceeding supply for cyber professionals. So I was just wondering, for the students in the room and anyone who's interested in pursuing a career in cybersecurity, what opportunities are there for them to look into?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So we hear all the time about this skills gap, right? You know, there's so many millions of cybersecurity roles that are not filled. But we all know the reality on the ground. You come out of university or somewhere, you've got your qualifications, and the jobs don't seem to be there. I think there's a few reasons for that. One is, I think in many countries there's a reliance on degrees. So, you know, the traditional educational system. But what companies are really looking for is experience. They're looking for expertise in various fields like incident response, SOC operations, you know, pen testing. But also I think there's a growing need for these softer skills. So in communications, engagement. So it's not just a technical issue. So there are going to be huge opportunities here in Nairobi. You know, I've got a year to do at the High Commission. I'm staying in Nairobi long term as a consultant. I'm still going to be in this cyber field, and I do a lot of mentorship. So please, if there are any students here who are looking for advice, guidance, career direction, mentorship, please do reach out to me. I'm Andy Chadwick UK is my handle. I'm on LinkedIn and Twitter, or X as it now is. But please, you know, do see me at the break. And I'm very passionate about bringing this next generation of cybersecurity professionals through. So I'm here to help. Like I said, I'm not just a suit and a diplomat, I'm a technical guy. I started off as a protocol analyst, signals analyst, and worked my way through. So to answer your question in one sentence, there will be opportunities, there are opportunities. I think Kenya's still finding its way on how to find the right people into the right jobs. And you know, that's something I'm passionate about trying to help in the future.
Thank you very much. A big round of applause for Mr. Andy Chadwick. I think this is one of the presentations that we'll definitely be revisiting. I think it's not enough to just listen to it once. At this point, I want to invite our next presenter from Africa TLD, and that's Mr. Barack Ocheng. Karibuni. Let's welcome him with a round of applause.
Thank you. Comrades, hamjambo. I heard yesterday we are comrades or we are students. I didn't want to say mabibi na mabwana. Sawa sawa. Yeah, my name is Barack Otieno. I am here representing the Africa Top Level Domains Organization, the regional association of country code top level domains in Africa. I know I'm using many English, but I will make it very simple as I continue with my presentation. If we could have the slide deck up, tech team. So I want to take us through a walk on what country code top level domain registries are. I know many of us are hearing us throwing words here and there and talking about technical terms from different angles, but we are here because we are interested in the DNS or in the domain name system and how it can bring food to our table, isn't it? So I'm going to try to simplify that and show what's happening at continental level and at global level. So as I wait for the slides, oh, thank you. Thank you very much. Maybe we could blow it on full screen. So as I wait for the slide deck to be sorted, Africa Top Level Domains Organization was created by African Country Code Top Level Domain Registries. A country code top level domain registry is simply an organization that is set up to manage an internet resource that represents a country on the internet, in this case .ke. I see my colleague Bob or June will be coming up later on to talk about the generic top-level domains, which are under the ambit of the Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers. But a country code is different from a generic top-level domain because of a unique standard that is called the ISO 3166. ISO stands for the International Standards Organization. Kenya is a voting member in the International Standards Organization, which is a United Nations body. And any organization or any country that is recognized by the United Nations, any country or territory, is given a unique code. So Kenya has the code KE. Uganda has the code UG. South Africa has the code ZA and not SA, which has been allocated to someone else. So there is a process that is taken, that people go through. Yesterday we had a panel in which we talked about multi-stakeholderism. And the International Standards Organization has stakeholders from different countries. I'm not sure if Kenya is still the president of the International Standards Organization. I think the last president was Mr. Eddie Njoroge, I think, who had a 4-year term or something. But that's the example. We have our neighbor Somalia, which is .so. But we have Somaliland, which does not have a domain name, for the simple reason that it is not recognized as a territory by the United Nations. One may ask. And it's a process. I don't want to call it lengthy process, but there's a stakeholder process that has to be gone through for this to be achieved. The process of getting a country code top-level domain is called delegation. Yesterday, Fiona used the term redelegation or delegation. Bob had to correct and say delegation. So delegation is simply a process in which, one, the code is created. The code is created following the procedures of the International Standards Organization. If we are talking about a country code, you can go online and grab the ISO 3166 standard for students and those who are interested in reading and see a bit of a history. After that is done, the process is transferred to the Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers. They'll be coming up next and we'll talk about what happens. But there's an organization there. It's called Public Technical Identifiers, or PTI, which does the Internet Assigned Names and Numbers function. Then the code is put onto the root of the Internet. And then an administrative contact is chosen and a technical contact is chosen. And that's what yesterday in the eminent panel that we had here, we had that CA is an administrative contact, TESPOC is a technical contact. But I think things have since changed because CA is a regulator and they provide oversight over the space. So they are the principal custodians because .ke belongs to the Kenyan people, but I believe the administrative contact and the technical contact could be different. So this is the process that is followed globally in ensuring that countries have a country code top-level domain. Of course, there are also other domains, .com, .net, .org, which fall under generic top-level domains, and those are squarely under the administration of the Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers, and we have a big team here to talk about that. So today I will focus my meter band on country code top-level domains organization, on country code top-level domains, because they are the ones which comprise AFTL, who form the members of AFTLD. Next slide, kindly. So Africa Top-Level Domains Organization acts as a focal point for African top-level domain managers to discuss matters of policy that most of us would not be online. But it is global in the sense that what you think may not make money for you locally might make money for you in another jurisdiction locally. So, as it was rightly mentioned yesterday, it is a network of networks, starting with the local network to the global network. We are connected by a network in this hotel. It is possible that we may be sharing just buying internet is heading. We used to spend thousands of shillings. Our friend from Bullshaw is here, and some years back it costed 300,000 to probably have 3 MB. And how much does it cost to have 3 MB right now? Probably less than 2,000 shillings, isn't it? So what are people paying for? People are paying for content. And that's why we are seeing a new emergence, a breed of people called content creators. They are the new bourgeoisie, isn't it? And I can see they are seated in this room. Uki retweet ni 10,000, isn't it? They just tell you, you just tell me what you want me to retweet. I have 1 million followers and I will charge you 10,000 or 100,000 for that. So that means that the internet is becoming more relevant on a local basis. Are we ready to proceed? Next slide, kindly. All right. So as we prepare, internet governance globally is divided along two major critical internet resources. That is names and numbers that Bob talked about. Now, country code top level domain registries fall under the names space. Globally, we have internet cooperation, we have technical organizations, and we have various organizations that deal with policy issues on the internet to make sure that internet resources are properly used globally. If you can follow my screen, you'll see a montage. I don't know if that is the right English word. English is not my tongue. Of country code top level domain registries globally, according to the regions that they are in. So globally, the naming space is divided into the African region, which is covered by Africa Top Level Domains Organization and comprises CCTLDs in Africa. The Latin America and the Caribbean region that has a similar organization to AFTLD that is called LACTLD. The Asia Pacific region that has an organization known as Asia Pacific Top Level Domain, and the European region that has an organization known as the Council for European National Top Level Domain Registries. So that is how globally the CCTLD movement is managed. On the numbering space, we equally have similar organizations. Some of you may have heard of the Africa Network Information Center, which distributes numbers to local internet registries, which in this case are ISPs. You know, in Kenya, the Kenya Network Information Center is the one that handles the names. And then we have domain registrars who deal with different registries that handle the generic top-level domains delegated by ICANN. But the numbering side is handled by a totally different set of entities. So we have AFRINIC, or Africa Network Information Center. Then we have national or local internet registries. A local internet registry, for example, would be an organization like Bullshaw that is represented here, which provides internet to different parts of the Kenyan community, or Safaricom. I don't want to mention Safaricom. I want to talk about the local ones because you know Safaricom. But there are small ISPs that are connecting us in our communities. For them to connect us, they need numbers. For them to get these numbers, they get them from the Africa Network Information Center. We have similar organizations in Asia, the Asia Pacific Network Information Center. We have the Latin America and the Latin American and the Caribbean Network Information Center, LACNIC. We have RIPE NCC that covers the European region, and we have American Region Network Information Center as well. Next slide, kindly. Now, there are various stakeholders that ensure that the internet continues to grow and continues to work as is expected. And I just want to demonstrate what I have mentioned. If you look at the screen, you'll see the internet ecosystem at the center. Yesterday on the table, we had the Internet Society, which was represented, and Engineer Alphonse is here, the president of the local chapter. Under the Internet Society, there are various institutions, such as the Internet Engineering Task Force, the Internet Architecture Board, the Internet Research Task Force, and Internet Society chapters. You can participate in any of these as a Kenyan, as an individual, or as an entity that you represent to make sure that you shape the evolution of the internet. We have internet governance, and we have various entities such as the European Dialogue on Internet Governance. We have the Global Internet Governance Forum. We have Net Mundial. This was an initiative by the Brazilian president who unfortunately, whose term ended. We have the Global United Nations Internet Governance Forum. We have the Kenya Internet Governance Forum. We have the East African Internet Governance Forum, and we have the Africa Internet Governance Forum as examples. We have user groups. The Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers has a an organization within it known as the At-Large Constituency. I believe they'll talk about that. Inside the At-Large Constituency, we have organizations that represent internet users' interest in global public policy meetings. And in Africa, we have the Africa Regional At-Large Organization, or AFRALO. AFRALO, some Kenyan organizations are members of Africa Regional At-Large Organization. For those who are in civil society, you can join that entity. I hope, again, the ICANN team is going to talk more about that. So they discuss matters that affect users. We've been talking about user-centered design or user-centric design. So those issues are embedded into policies that determine the structure of the internet. We have various policy organizations such as the Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers, which will be taking stage after I finish the presentation, the International Telecommunications Union, and various other multilateral institutions and international partners such as Andy, who is here, who also contribute in shaping various components of the internet. When it comes to the technical layer, where I am heading on the infrastructure side, we have network operators who comprise telecommunication providers and internet service providers. We have root servers that are managed by ICANN, and Kenya is privileged to host something called the IMRS. I believe ICANN will talk about that, which tries to localize internet traffic in Kenya. We have internet exchange points. Yeah, the technology service providers of Kenya, I see Milka in the room, they host the Kenya Internet Exchange Point. The Kenya Internet Exchange Point helps in keeping traffic local. When you are enjoying your Netflix without buffering, you are doing so because Netflix content has been brought closer to your doorstep, thanks to the Internet Exchange Point. We have hosting providers. I see Wycliffe here. Other than a domain name, you need a host. You need hosting. We have domain registries, country code top-level domain registries like .ke, which has invited us here, and generic top-level domain registries like .com. Then on CCTLD regional organizations, we have the Asia Pacific top-level domain, LACTLD, AFTLD, and Center that I mentioned earlier. Within ICANN, you can see there are also policy-making institutions. Let me pause there. Am I speaking English? Tuko pamoja. Thank you. Yeah, so we have the country code name supporting organization. which is a unique body that brings together country code top-level domain registries in the Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers. We have the generic name supporting organization. We have the Government Advisory Committee. We have the At-Large Committee. We have the Security and Stability Advisory Committee. And we have the Root Server Advisory Committee. And we have the Address Supporting Organization that deals with the numbers. I will throw that monkey at Bob when he comes, or June. Oh, I'm reliably advised that it's June. I can see she's smiling. Then we have Standards and Protocols Organizations, the W3C. The internet is not the World Wide Web, and the World Wide Web is not the internet. Tuko pamoja? So we have the World Wide Web Consortium, which is responsible for development and evolution of the World Wide Web. We have various committees in the International Telecommunications Organization. We have the Internet Engineering Task Force, which is responsible for the request for comments. These are standards that ensure that the internet continues to evolve. We have the Internet Research Task Force, Internet Architecture Board, and the IEEE that is responsible for most of the standards that we use, including the Wi-Fi standard that we use. Wi-Fi came from IEEE. Last but not least, we have regional internet registries that I've talked about: RIPE, NCC, Afrinic, LACNIC, EPINIC, and ARIN. Next slide, kindly. I want to bring you back to country code top-level domain registries. So in Africa, these are the members of Africa Top-Level Domains Organization. So it is an entity that brings together country code top-level domain managers and their staff to discuss issues of mutual interest and issues that will be able to propel them forward. Other than this, we also have associate members. These are basically organizations that provide unique expertise that enables the registries to operate. Registries require software to be able to operate. So they are entities that build software that ensures that the ecosystem in registries is able to function. The most commonly used model for registries in Africa is called the 3R model. 3R simply means registry, registrar, and registrant. A registry is, for example, KENIC. A registry is very similar to the registrar of births and the registrar of deaths. Most of us, when we are going through certain transitions in life, there's that unique office in Harambee Avenue where you need to go, isn't it? And they normally put posters out there, especially if you have declared some unique interests, to say that if there is any citizen that is opposed to this interest, they should come and confirm to the registry, isn't it? You know, there are citizens who have unique powers or double interests. So the government is there to ensure that there is harmony in the society. So KENIC is just like that. For example, if I have not registered Otieno.ke, if I go to KENIC, I might not find it because Otieno is not unique to me. Someone else has probably registered it. And this person, probably Wycliffe, can say that this other Otieno is saying that if you can speak well, and you know what I mean when I say if you can speak well in Kenya, in dollars. Now we are talking about dollars because of inflation. I can give you Otieno.ke, isn't it? Then we start fighting. Then KENIC pulls me to Beth's office to go and adjudicate. We go and speak a lot of English, bring lawyers who in the room, and then agree on who the domain will be transferred to. So that is the work that country code top-level domain registries do. Next slide, kindly. Africa Top-Level Domains Organization was started in May 2001. It was conceptualized at an Africa Network Operators Group workshop in Accra. This was one of the community meetings that was organized by the Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers. I'm taking you through this story so that you can appreciate how we have evolved over the years. There are gentlemen whom I have listed there, and one of them was involved in the setup of the Kenya Network Information Center, who are tasked with the responsibility to create this association and to ensure that it is formally established. That is Mr. Nick Quaino, or Dr. Nick Quaino, who is always referred to as the father of internet in Africa. Jan Kwok, who was one of the champions for .mu in Mauritius, and Brian Longwe, who at that time was involved with TESPOC and was also involved in creation of KENIC. In December 2002, AFTLD was incorporated in Mauritius. Next slide. On 26th October 2003, the first Africa Top-Level Domains Organization General Assembly was convened in Carthage, Tunisia. It was done with the support of Asia Pacific Top-Level Domains Organization, the Council for European National Top-Level Domain Registries, and the Latin America and the Caribbean Top-Level Domain Registry. What was happening is that internet stakeholders were coming together to help each other create communities of practice that would ensure that the internet develops in different countries in Africa. So when I talk of General Assembly, it was the first time that country code top-level domain managers from Africa came together. Notice in my earlier presentation, there was a representation from KENIC in creating this particular entity to make sure that they gather all the country code top-level domains in Africa and they start charting a way forward for themselves. In 2003, at an ICANN meeting in Montreal, Africa Top-Level Domains Organization issued the first communique declaring that the organization was formally established. At that particular time, because ICANN, I think ICANN was started in 1998. So this was which meeting for mathematicians in the room? It holds community meetings every year. 9th or? I think the 9th or the 10th public policy. It could even be more. But in that meeting, that's when the Africans declared that we have an organization that will help us manage our country codes. At that time, there was a special organization called the Country Code Name Supporting Organization, and Africa only had 2 members in that organization. As we speak, Africa has 38 members, and I think region-wise is the 3rd most represented region in the Country Code Name Supporting Organization. I'm saying this because I want to challenge us to ensure that we are not always on the menu. We need to be on the table. Sawa sawa. So that we are not hearing stories, but we are part of the story. Next slide. AFTLD has had many meetings similar to the one convened by KENIC here. And they are convened by other stakeholders. Some of them are convened by AFTLD. But what is key is where we are, you will find ISOC. Where we are, you will find ICANN. Where ICANN is, you will find AFTLD. Sometimes we don't necessarily agree. We agree to disagree in those meetings. Why? Because we represent interests. But what is important is these meetings are convened so that we are able to move forward. So we use terms like rough consensus. Rough consensus means we don't need to agree or disagree, but we agree to move forward together. Am I speaking English? Thank you. Next slide. This is the structure of Africa Top-Level Domains Organization. The organization has 32 full members. These are registries that pay their membership fees on an annual basis. The secretariat is at the Kenya Network Information Center. That goes to tell you also the role of KENIC within the regional and intercontinental ecosystem. It has a board that is comprised of CCTLD managers who elect themselves, elect from among themselves, and then it has staff. Next slide. AFTLD has working groups. Of course, the various CCTLDs also have staff other than managers. So the technical staff meet on their own. Those who are interested on research meet on their own. Those who are interested in marketing meet on their own. There are issues of universal acceptance that are within the ICANN ecosystem, and there's a group that meets there. From time to time, AFTLD also reviews its constitution. For example, to have the secretariat in Kenya, it had to be registered in Kenya as well. And that's why I mentioned that it is at the Kenya Network Information Center. It was easier to serve the continent from Kenya. And then there's a meetings working group which organizes meetings. Next slide, kindly. These are some of the activities that AFTLD has been involved in and engaged in. There's a lot of interest in the CCTLD market in Africa. As we speak, the global TLD market has over 356 million domain names. Almost a half of these are attributed to country code top-level domain registries. .com actually has 161.3 million domain names. But if you look at the organizations that comprise the top 10 in terms of domain name registrations globally, CCTLDs are the majority as opposed to generic top-level domains. China has 20.3 million domain names. I'm not sure if it is a continent or a country. Germany has 17.6 million domain names, .de. .net, which is not a country, has 13.1 million names. .uk, Andy's country, has 11 million domain names. .org, which is an institution under the Internet Society or has oversight under the Internet Society, has 10.7 million names. .nl for Netherlands has 6.2 million names. .ru for Russia has 5.2 million names. .br for Brazil has Russia has 5.7, Brazil has 5.2 million, and Australia has 4.2 million names. Kenya is at 100,500. Niseme kwa upole, because we are work in progress. That tells us that there is work that we need to do, isn't it? This is the reason why you see all these activities such as the Kenya DNS Forum and many other activities that are organized by AFTLD and its partners, for which I believe many of you have had an opportunity to be able to attend. But through such forum, we try to encourage African CCTLDs to be the best. Next slide, kindly. Some important milestones on what has been attained as a result of such multi-stakeholder meetings is CCTLDs have been active participants in the Global Internet Governance Forum. We are always looking at how can local communities benefit from country code top-level domain registries. And I want this to go on record. I hope the cameraman is focusing on me. When you buy a .ke, you are building Kenya. When you buy a .com, you are building an organization that is not registered in Kenya, but which will pay its dues to ICANN. Kulipa ushuru? Ama hakuna wahenga kwa hii room. Kulipa ushuru? So it's if .ke had 1 million domain names, I can assure you this meeting would have been somewhere in Lamu. Tungekuwa tuna float tu kwa maji, tukisikiliza presentation. But because we don't want to buy .ke, we are comfortable mahali kuna jam. Even His Majesty has gone to Mombasa. Pesa ni mzuri, my friends. So we need to support our national country code top-level domain registry. Am I speaking English? This is the gospel that we are preaching also in Africa. .uk has 11 million domain names. It belongs to the UK people. Every year, it brings in billions of dollars, which are invested in the local internet community. Yesterday, Tespok was saying that we need to use proceeds from KENIC to train internet engineers. Si tuliongea mambo ya academia. Sasa tutachukua aje pesa yenye hakuna? my friends. Haiwezekani, isn't it? So we need to support growth development. Nunua hata kama si .ke, nunua .tz ama nunua .ug. Si tuko na interest Uganda? Ama sisikii wanaume hapa. We are a community. Now we have the East African community. Na msifikirie vile mimi nasema. I am talking of business interests. Isn't it? So you might have a .ug and you might have those other ones. So having said that, the internet is only as useful as how trustworthy it is. And there are initiatives, some of them are championed by ICANN, to make sure that the internet is secure, is stable, and is available. But what is key, my friends, is we have to control the narratives. Let's buy .ke to support our economy. Sawa sawa. And you know, each one of us is from a village. Ama kuna mtu village yake ni Nairobi? I think so. Sindio? Ninaona mmoja anasema village yake ni Nairobi. But we are all from a village. So don't wait for Kenik to come to your village to sell domain names. There's an opportunity as a reseller. There's an opportunity as a registrar. Next slide, kindly. I am eating into June's time. There is increasing interest from governments in Africa to oversight CCTLDs. So far, we have 24 CCTLDs that have direct oversight, that are under direct oversight from government. But this is not ideal. As one of the presenters mentioned yesterday, the private sector has the capacity to be able to do business. Indio, what we are all looking for is facilitation. So the model that AFTLD encourages or champions is for CCTLDs to be managed through private-public partnerships where different stakeholders have interest so that they can be able to push it. We are also seeing a lot of transition from academia to the private sector. As I mentioned yesterday, the internet largely grew within the academic environment. And academia still is important because most of us interacted with the internet for the first time probably in university or school. But there are other people who have the responsibility of growing it beyond academia, once people have been given the power to read and write. So we are seeing increased private sector role or public-private partnership models such as Kenik. There are currently 32 country code top-level domain registries in Africa that are under various forms of private sector leadership. We are also seeing limited cases of delegation. In 2008 or in the early 2000s, the biggest challenge is most country code top-level domain registries were managed from outside the African continent because we didn't have the competence and skills that Andy pointed out earlier. We have worked hard to make sure that this is the case, including having fora such as this, so that we build each other's capacity. And thus, there are very limited cases of delegation. Actually, we have less than 5 countries to go to deal with the issue of delegation in the entire African continent, which means that we have dealt with over 90% of this issue. Then there's an increased push for self-sustainability. There's a time Kenik used to take us to Afralti for meetings. Though ilikuwa hakuna. So we go to Afralti, na vuruta desk, na kiti, na unakula mandazi. But now they are bringing us to a place where we can have a 3-course meal or a 5-course meal. Or for those who remained behind yesterday, I don't know what other courses you added, but it's because there is money. So there's an increased push for self-sustainability. There'll be many of these kind of meetings across the African continent. And I want to invite you, ukisikia iko Uganda, travel to Uganda and attend that meeting. If it is in DRC, let's go there because there's a business opportunity there. Next slide. This is a small picture of the statistics in the African continent. I mentioned that globally we have 356.6 million domain names. Africa accounts for less than 1% of the total number of domain names globally. So mkifikiria tuko wengi, hatuko wengi. Nairobi si Kenya na Kenya si Nairobi. Even if we combine Kenya, we are still not measuring up. Hatutoshi unga. I don't know the English version of that. Kenik is at 105 500 domains. South Africa is at 1.2 million domain names. You can see where most of the CCTLDs are. So we are doing well, but we can do better. So when we hear the clarion call from the CEO for 1 million names, at least to feature aibu kidogo, si ndio? Ama najiongelesha? We are having a Kenyan conversation. I am not wearing a Kenyan cloth today. We are having a Kenyan conversation, isn't it? So we also want to be, Morocco before COVID used to have 78,000 domain names. Walikuja, tukawaonea kwa view sasa. Now they are at 114,000. So ndugu zanguni, we need to do something. You need to start with your village. You need to understand how this, usikunywe tu chai na mandazi hapa. Go to the stand and understand how can you add domain names. No offense in that comment. But are we together? Yeah, so this is the picture. We can do better as an African continent. Next slides, kindly. There are many projects that are going on by different stakeholders. ICANN is conducting an Africa domain name market study. They'll talk about that. We have an observatory, which is basically a project that keeps numbers and which can allow CCTLDs and community members to see how others are performing with the view of improving. We also have investors who want to invest in the domain name industry in Africa, and they are looking for statistics, they are looking for business cases. We have the Africa Domain Name System Forum. Last year, some of you had the opportunity to attend here in Nairobi, and we also had the Kenya DNS Forum there. We are encouraging creation of national communities of practice, such as the Kenya DNS Forum. And I would like to congratulate KENIC for such a well-organized event. I think they deserve a clap. And you also deserve a clap for coming. Yeah. Yeah, I'm saying this because it's not an easy feat. This was just an idea, and this is a model also for other countries. I believe if we catalyze this across the African country, then those numbers that I have shown are going to be different. Next slide, kindly. What does the future hold for Africa? Growth. Yeah? This is where growth is. Most of the European market is saturated. Yeah? There is a lot. They have more than they need. But this is where the growth opportunity is. So there's an opportunity for you to be a registrar. There's an opportunity for you to be a reseller to ensure that our country code or our country code top level domain registries grow. And there's increased infrastructure coverage, which is bringing more people online. There's a lot of digitization. We've heard of the government agenda, which is bringing more people online. And this is the decade of growth for African country code top level domain registries. Next slide, kindly. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. I'm sure you have a question or two. Yeah, sure.
Thank you very much. And that's a very, again, illuminating talk. Just one simple question. There has been, you mentioned Afrinic in your presentation, and there has been what we can call a bit of controversy. Maybe this is the right place to get, a real breakdown of what has that controversy been, and how does it affect us as people in the domain name system or the domain name ecosystem.
I will attempt to answer the question, but don't quote me. These are my personal opinions, and they don't represent any affiliation. Anyway, I have shared the ecosystem. If any part of the internet ecosystem is not working, it has catastrophic effects on the stability and availability of the internet. Now, ICANN distributes numbers and names to various organizations globally. KENIC is recognized by ICANN as the operator of the .ke domain namespace. In the same way, ICANN distributes numbers globally through regional internet registries. The regional internet registries then distribute these numbers to local organizations. The term that is used is called local internet registry, but it's not an accepted term. But I would call it ISP. For example, it distributes it to Bullshaw or to Wycliffe. I wanted to say East African Directory, but the name changed. But as a hosting provider, they also get number resources from Afrinic because you need numbers to be online. Afrinic has a governance structure that ensures that it functions as an organization. Let me put it that way. Just the way when a country has no president, then it becomes unstable. Let's put it that way. So the challenges at hand is because stakeholders are not on the same page. And therefore, it is compromising the efficacy of the organization. Because when I say the efficacy of the organization, I have pointed out statistics. AFTLD is an organization formed by African CCTLDs. African CCTLDs might be small, but they have come together and created an entity that will give them direction. And we are seeing that bit by bit, they are getting strength and moving in a certain direction. If we look back in 2010 to now, there is a difference. So in the same way, Afrinic is supposed to ensure that, for example, Africa is the only region that still has IP version 4 resources. The other regions are now on IP version 6. The reason is most of our organizations use legacy devices, or most of our countries do not have competency and skills that are needed to grow internet infrastructure. So a lot of the income from Afrinic goes towards building communities, technical communities, alongside other partners such as the Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers. You know, at ICANN is a global organization, so we speak in low tones. But in Afrinic, tuko nyumbani, we are able to express ourselves. So when our regional internet registry is not functioning, it means that our local growth is compromised. And our regional internet registry is not functioning because of governance-related issues. There were resources that were issued in a way that brought a bit of tatanishi, if I use the Kiswahili term. They were issued in the right way, but they were not used properly. So that was the genesis of the problem. I don't want to go onto whether who is right or wrong, because it's a matter that is before a court of law. But just to say that maybe it is because we did not understand the value of the organization. So we were not paying attention to key issues when we are running it. You know, just the way we elect political leaders. In computing, we say garbage in, garbage out, isn't it? Now we know better. So you know, if you take your leader up there, you know what to expect from them. Of course, some of them surprise us, isn't it? So that calls for our collective responsibility as citizens on internet governance matters, to make sure that the kind of governance challenges that we are facing with such a critical internet body are not what they are. I think that's how I can put it in simplest terms, because it's a matter that is before a court of law, but I may not speak about it. But the risk is, if Afrinic is unable to function, then it will limit the growth of internet in Africa. My friend from Bullshaw here will tell you that IP resources are now scarce. The more people you bring online, the more IP addresses you need. So what happens if Bullshaw is not able to get IP resources from Afrinic? It means that Bullshaw will not be able to connect more people in the rural areas whom it wants to connect. That's the simple term. And that's why Afrinic must be working well. Am I speaking English? Thank you.
Thank you very much. One more question from...
Hi, everyone. Hi, Barak. How are you?
Fine, thank you.
My name is Miriam Juguna. I work with Shecode Africa and also I'm in the startup ecosystem. So my question is, we talk of selling domain names. How have you partnered or how are you pulling SMEs and startup founders? Because they're the ones who are right now digitizing a lot of things. They are the ones who are coming up with ideas, innovative ideas. How are you pulling them on board to buy the .ke, because most of them will go and buy .com instead of .ke. How will you pull them on board, or what measures have you taken for that?
Thank you. That's a great question. I think like the Kenya DNS Forum is an opportunity. The CEO told us to do business after this, isn't it? And I think this platform, other than Mandazi and the tea that has been provided, we are here to, there's an opportunity to be a registrar. There's an opportunity to be a reseller. I think I am here to share knowledge. And this is what we are doing across the African continent. Gather people. I'll be here for the rest of the day. There's an opportunity for policymakers. We have Grace here. We have June there. For those who want to be in policy, lawyers have their space here. For those who just want startups, we have developers in the room here who are building websites. The issue I have just talked about is because of money. An IP address costs $30, one. So if you have 1 million, how much money is that? That's a business opportunity. That's why we are not fighting because of policy. We are fighting because of resources. So I think what I would say is the National DNS Forum, the Internet Governance Forum meetings, the various meetings convened by ICANN and other stakeholders are there to make sure that we are actually on the table and not on the menu. We are not being consumed or something like that. Thank you.
I'm a big and a firm believer that there's every opportunity for 10xing the Kenyan the number of Kenyan domains. A big round of applause for Barak. Thank you very much. At this point, I want to invite our team from ICANN. Okay, we can take a 2-minute break as we wait for them to set up. Question. Okay, we have a question.
Probably a question regarding to the previous conversation that we just had. I've seen there are some countries which have made as a policy to have their domains. There are some countries which have made as a policy to have their domains as more or less their primary. Any organization that is coming up with a domain name has to have a country like Tanzania. They have to have a .tz as part of their domain. I don't know whether in Kenya, maybe if we can make .co.ke, and what is the process of maybe having it as a policy for all the companies that are based locally here to have .co.ke as part of their primary domain. Also, the other question is in regards to maybe the myths around .co.ke. There are myths that maybe if you have .co.ke, the connectivity, you'll have challenges with connectivity. And so many people just opt for .com. So maybe are there awareness that maybe Kennick is making or other DNS forums are making to be able to remove those kinds of myths? Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. I think one of the things, let me start with the last component, the thought or the feeling that African domain names are inferior. I think that's a lie. Let me put it, we call it misinformation and disinformation online. And you know, for something to grow, stories have to be told. Even for those who are politicians, do you heap praises on your opponent? You say the negative things. I think what determines the security and stability of a domain name is how the infrastructure is run. I believe Kennick is hosted in the same data centers that host most of our banks in Kenya. Therefore, it is secure, it is stable, and most of the time it is available. Of course, once in a while there are technical hiccups, and this also happens in other African countries. But these are things that can be resolved. But what I want us to underline is where your money goes. When you buy a .ke, your money remains here. If you buy anything else, that is repatriation of funds. And I mentioned that assuming we had 1 million or so .ke domain names, Kenik exists because of this community. It will plow this money back into this community in one event or the other, whether it is ASEC doing startups, whether it is Kictanet doing policy work, or whether it is ISOC doing community-related activities. The other issue has to do with market regulation. And I would say, for those who are senior citizens, when the telecommunication sector was liberalized in Kenya, I hope that is the right English, Andy. Is it liberalization? Thank you very much. There was Kensel and there was Safaricom. Kensel made us to be professional flashers, isn't it? Because it was meant to be for a certain group of people. But Safaricom made us to be Bamba people, isn't it? You could Bamba 5 and Bamba something. The rest is history, isn't it? You can see how the tables were turned or how the numbers were turned. So I know that there are corporate organizations that normally insist that during the tenders you take a .ke domain names, but it contributes to a lot of deletions. It's called churn. People buy the domains after they lose the tenders or they win the tenders, then they discard them. But I think there's a great opportunity, as one of our friends there asked, especially on the internet value chain. Anything that is on the internet needs a name and needs a number. Right now, Kenik is doing an auction. There are very unique names that are there. Have we taken advantage of that opportunity? So money is floating, but we are too educated to see the money. I see the CEO wants to back up. Thank you. I hope I have tried to do justice.
You have done more than justice, Barak. Thank you. And also, I thought FTLD, you are busy enough. It looks like you're encroaching to my CEO role. No, he's a good brother. I just wanted to reinforce one or two things from the question. Can we use policy to lock .ke, push businesses, individuals to a direction where they have no option? Our view, and it's something we have prosecuted, for example, when you register a business name at BRS, could we find a way through law or regulation to force you to take a .ke? So it's a conversation we've had for a long time. This is our view. We'd rather push for best practice, where we show you value so that you do not churn, instead of forcing you and then you churn. So I think there are pros and cons for both arguments. I think it is Togo or one West African country where they have millions of domains because the government pays for it. It's free. Another model. Again, I have a free domain in my pocket. I'm in Butere. I don't need it. It's been given to the government by me, but I don't leverage it. So I think it's something we can continue exploring, but we prefer show you value and build best practice. They will come and they will stay. I think secondly was around, it is not, Barak said he believes that we have robust infrastructure behind data centers similar to where Safaricom is and where banks are. Don't believe it, it is a fact. We are only able to show you that come on board because we have done our best to ensure that the system is available, it is secure, it is reliable. Notwithstanding that there are always risks. So we want to give that assurance to the public. I think finally, less than 1% of the 365 million or so domains, not where Africa needs to be. But I think we are clear that we want to go north, to push the envelope. And rightfully so, KENIC will continue, with your support, to plow back into the community. We partner with KICTANET, we partner with CA to find the entrepreneurs, the digital community, wherever they are, with the resources that we have. So guess what? Come on board. It is all your resources. So the clarion call, I think, has been made by my brother Barack. I identify myself with everything Barack has said and everything that ICANN will say to a certain extent. Welcome, ICANN.
Thank you very much. At this point, we invite Bob Ocheng from ICANN. ICANN are very big sponsors and supporters of this event. Let's give him another round of applause.
So it's always very difficult to follow Barack because he can move from the Arctic to the south, to the east, to the west in a very short time. I think the CEO should be very careful because he has already identified with everything that I will say before I say them. So I have a whiteboard to say anything, and he has already agreed beforehand. So if I could be made, or I could be allowed to share my screen, I can get started. I know we are running behind time. I'll try to make this quick to a certain extent as well. I want to just follow up very quickly on those statistics that Barack has talked about. And it's something that we always highlight. And Barack speaks about this very passionately because he has a global view of CCTLDs, not only in Africa, but the rest of the regions. When you look at those statistics, the bulk of the 360-something million domain names is .com, isn't it? So we always ask ourselves the question, is .com dominant? You know, you could be declared a dominant player. Probably ICANN should ask themselves, if someone can be declared dominant, then we do something to them. We were trying to find out if there was a dominant player in this market some time back. I don't know if that discussion is still going on. But do we think .com is dominant? Who thinks that is the case? So we tried to prosecute, that is the term you used, that argument, is .com dominant? So if you look at the regions themselves, if you come to Africa, look at the percentage registration of .coms relative to the global registrations of other domain names, .com is very small. So if you look at Africa, the dominant domain name is CCTLDs, not .com. If you look at Europe, it is not .com. In fact, .com is only dominant in North America, where they originated from. So it is a myth that we always imagine or think that everyone only wants to register .com. No. I wish in another session I could pull up those numbers for you. It will tell you the story. So, and the other thing that Barack did not mention, as he said, China is, I think, 20 million, Germany, those numbers. There's a different perspective that you should see in that list. If you take the top 10 registrations globally, global registrations, you will find, of course, .com, .net, and then you'll find at least 7 country code names in the top 10. So China is a country code name, India is a country code name, Russia is a country code name, Germany is a country code name. In other words, CCTLDs are actually the bulk of top 10 registrations globally. So out of those 365 million plus, the majority is actually CCTLDs. So the question we are asking is why none of those is from Africa. Probably it can also mean we have a lot of opportunity, or something really needs to be done. But it can be done. I mean, it has been demonstrated that it can be done. And imagine a CCTLD namespace of just 1 million names. All of us here could be employed by that registry. 2 million names, I think, 10 million names, that would be a huge organization. So this is an industry that is having huge potentials economically, in as much as domain names technically help us navigate the internet. The value and the economic value of domain names is yet to really be realized in Africa as a whole. So even as we say that, we are very soon launching another process, which I'll speak about very, very quickly, time allowing. So let's see. Okay, so very quickly, I'll speak about yet another set of domain names and probably see what this means for this discussion today. So this discussion today will be a little bit on something we call universal acceptance. If it is not English enough, Andy is around to correct us. And new generic top-level domain names, which is normally abbreviated as NG, NGTLDs. And Walu yesterday said NG is Nigeria. So I can confirm that NG in this case only means new generic top-level domain names. And very quickly, I'll go through an introduction on, of course, the DNS, which we all know. Zero in on universal acceptance, what that means, internationalized domain names, and the next round of GTLDs, whatever that means. Internet is a global network of networks. Barak says it is both global and local. I hope he explained that very well. But in 2023, we have 5.3 billion people on the internet and counting. Someone could also say we have over 1.something billion people off the internet or offline, which is a different problem. By 2025, different projections, depending on what you are referring to. If you have a Kenyan source, probably you'll have a different figure there, but we have people talking about 75 billion devices connected by that time. So this internet thing is really interesting and growing. What are top-level domain names, if we asked ourselves? Do we have the same understanding of what these things are? So up there, you will see a sample. But this is what used to be there. And then down, there's something we call internationalized domain names. Basically meaning that from where you sit, it does not look like anything, but in those respective countries, where they speak those languages or write in that particular manner, that is actually a domain name. So .org could actually be represented in Arabic with what you see down there. .com in Chinese could be what you see down there. Or .net in Japanese could be what you see down there. Now, what we are saying is that today, all those possibilities are on the internet. So you have domain names in Chinese, in Cyrillic, in Arabic, in Japanese, because they are also part of the internet ecosystem. And there is no reason, no good reason at all, why you should not write an email in your language, because there's content in your language online. So this is an exercise to ensure the domain names themselves are also able to support different scripts and writing methods. In the last, so I did note that ICANN today is 25 years. So last month, ICANN celebrated the 25th birthday. ICANN was born in 1998, like some people around here. So we have domain names that are older than ICANN. And it has been very many years of evolution. The first time domain names were added onto the internet, we had in the 2000s, we had 7 new domain names added. In 2005, another 7 brought them to 14. In 2012, which was a grand expansion, we had over 1,200 domain names, new domain names, new generic top-level domain names added into the internet. If you wanted to muddy the waters, this one does not include your CCTLDs. So today, you could say, for me as an end user, I have this plus all the CCTLDs available to me. So why should I choose .ke? So in a market where you have over 1,500 options for me as a consumer, each of them charging differently, different use cases, why should I actually use .ke or .ug or .za or .anything? How do you stand out as this CCTLD or as this top-level domain name in this kind of competition? This is the reality that we are looking at today. But this is about to change even further. I don't know whether that is good or bad. But in another very short time, less than 3 years' time, these numbers shall have changed. So this is what we are calling the path to a more inclusive internet. Why? Because even with the 1,500 plus possibilities today, some people actually still feel that they are not part of this ecosystem. They're not part of the internet yet. That they missed out in the previous opportunities to actually embrace the domain name system in their respective languages. So they want actually an opportunity to now correct that. And for us, that is called inclusion. So you want to bring everyone on board, but then you create a different problem for those who already exist, like Andrew. Okay. So to try and recover on our time, the primary purpose of adding or planning to roll out a new round of new digital application processes for new names. And when I talk about new names here, I'm imagining a name like .Nairobi that does not exist today, or someone talked of EAC, does not exist today. When this happens, someone will be able to apply for that actual name and bring it to life so that you as an end user can henceforth apply for that. That is diversity, that is encouraging competition, which is already very tight, but it's also enhancing the utility of the DNS space. AI, for example, someone would want a domain name of that nature. It doesn't exist today. What if there's an application for those who are actually interested in AI as other things emerge? So it is trying to accommodate emerging trends and making it possible in the namespace as well. It will create opportunities to serve diverse languages, and this is critical for the global internet community. So for those of you in business, of course, you can always tailor this, in different ways, depending on whether you're going after brands, businesses, cultures, geographies. It will be possible to include much more beyond what we have today. This is just a sample of what we have today. .kiwi, .wine, .asia. But with the next round, you will be able to do much more than this. Maybe there will be a .Nairobi. Who knows? So what is the path to opening the next round, which is my key subject now? A number of things are happening as we speak. There has been a very detailed policy development process to guide how this next round should be executed by ICANN. And the result of that is 3 parts of this deployment. There's a policy implementation part, which is a process to come up with something we call an applicant guidebook. This applicant guidebook is the rule or the Bible or the rule set on how the whole program, from you who intend to apply, how much it will cost you, how the evaluations will be done, what can be accepted and what cannot be accepted. It outlines everything, all the rules that you need to know before you apply as a potential applicant for the next round. In parallel with that, we are doing what we call program design, program implementation readiness, and planning and preparation in terms of systems, in terms of people, in terms of tools, in readiness to roll out. Now that process will take us around 2 years, and it's already going on. After 2 years, we will actually take another 1 year to consider the final applicant guidebook that shall have been produced in collaboration with the community and refine our processes and then open the round. So if you look at the full timeline projected to opening the next round, 3 key milestones that I want you to take note of. There's something we're calling applicant support program, which I'll speak to very briefly. There's something we call registry service providers evaluation program. I'll speak to that very briefly. And then in Q2 of 2026, okay? So a quarter is 3 months, isn't it? So we're projecting that in Q2 of 2026, we shall actually open the next round for applications. So if anyone is interested in this, then that is your timeline to start working backwards to prepare yourself. You need a lot of preparations. What is the applicant support program? Now, for those of you who might be aware about the last round, which was run in 2012, as I mentioned, there's an application fee for you to be allowed to apply for a string or a domain name or a top-level name. So if you wanted to apply for .Nairobi, ICANN will charge an application fee. And depending on which currency you are using, it can be affordable or not. I think that's the right term to use, okay? But for those that will find it not affordable or out of reach, this is the program to take note of. And remember, this program opens in Q4 of next year. So September to December, the applicant support program will open. The same for what we are calling RSP, Registry Service Providers Evaluation Program, Q4 of next year. There's a reason why these ones are opening ahead of the actual application process. So essentially the ASP program is to subsidize those that cannot afford the application fee to certain percentages. What I'm hearing today is around 85% of subsidy. In other words, if the application fee is $100,000, then you will have, if you qualify, and they're working on the criteria to evaluate those who qualify, if you qualify, then you will be eligible to 85% discount on whatever the fee is for the actual application. So I would want, those of us who are potentially interested in this to take note of that particular program. On Registry Service Provider evaluation, so what happens is for you to operate a name which is serving end users, just like Kenik is operating a registry, ICANN evaluates your registry platform to confirm that it's fit for purpose. So this is a global responsibility. Today, if any of these registries went down, it will be of significant impact to end users and businesses and some critical services. So ICANN evaluates every registry that operates a generic top-level domain name. So any registry, whether you are a CCTLD today, that is interested in doing 2 things, either applying for a name to operate for yourself or evaluating your systems so that you can provide back-end services to others. In other words, if I apply for a name, I need someone to run the registry, or I need a registry to host it for me. So Kenny could host it for me, or any other CCTLD could host it for me. But that registry has to be pre-evaluated by ICANN and approved. So this is for those registries that would want to play in the business part as back-end service providers for applicants who don't have their own registries to actually get ready, be pre-evaluated, and approved. So that is an opportunity for any registry today to take note of. And I'm also saying this one will open in Q4 of next year. With that, I have some set of resources there for you to read and get much more information about the next round. But most importantly, I'm available to, address any specifics that you could have. And I think in the interest of time, I will stop it there and ask any questions. Thank you very much.
Hello, everyone. My name is Newton from Sasa Host Limited. My question to you is, with the new program that we're coming with, you see with most of these domains, someone just register maybe out of interest. Like .com, you just wake up and you register. So the question is, when someone is doing the application, will there be pre-qualifications for you to consider, or as long as I can afford, I just proceed and register? Thank you.
Okay, so will there be pre-qualifications? So two things. The applicant guidebook that I've talked about outlines to a great detail all the rules that one has to meet for you to make an application. Of course, you must also be able to afford it on one part, or you then try to go through the applicant support program. But will there be rules? There's a lot of rules, including rules on what you can't apply for. But otherwise, you can actually apply for, everyone is invited to apply as long as you can afford it, as you say. Like I said, it is not very affordable, depending on, what afford means. Going by the last time, the application fee was 185,000 US. It's still in the works what the fees will be for this particular round. But for anyone who can afford that, they're all invited. And they will have to abide by the rules as outlined in the applicant guidebook, which is still under development and will be finalized 2 years from now. I hope that helps, Newton. Was there a second one? Last one?
Another question? There's a question at the back.
Yeah.
Hello. Hello, everyone. My name is Jamie from Zukish Limited. And my question is about the GTLDs, specifically regarding how many people need to request for a particular GTLD for it to actually be implemented? Or is it just something that's not really set in stone?
So, assuming I understood you well, how many people need to request? So, two things. New requests follow a process. The last time that there was an opening for anyone to apply for any name was in the year 2012. Now, this will be the next time after the last round that a new opening will arise for people to apply for any name. Now, those names must not exist today. So you can't apply for something that already exists. You can't apply for .Africa, for example, because someone already did that. In essence, you have to apply for a new name. But it also means that we can apply, or one name can have more than one applicant. So say 10 people apply for .bob, okay? There's a process to come up with the eventual winner. You know, we call them contention resolution sets. So if we have 10 people each wanting the same name, there's different rules or arrangements on how to get one person to carry the day, because at the end of the day, only one applicant gets to get the name. It goes all the way to auctions, where you then actually now compete amongst yourselves as the applicants for this particular name. If 10 of you want .bob or .nairobi, and you can't agree, for example, amongst yourselves, then we take you through an auction process, which is defined in the applicant guidebook, and you outbid each other, and whoever emerges the winner gets the name. So ultimately, there's only one winner for every name, and every name that you apply for must not be existing today, and amongst other rules, should not be territorial names. For example, if you apply for .Kenya, then you'll need consent from the government of Kenya, and that is the same for other territories. So there are a lot of rules that you know, govern or guide what kind of names are admissible, and where you have multiple applicants for the same name, we have rules on how we treat the contention so that you end up with one winner. And sometimes we go all the way to court. We are also sued if someone feels that our process was probably breached or something. So that is how it works. But in terms of when can you next apply, is in Q2 of 2026. Yeah,
Thank you.
Any other question or? Okay.
More of a comment, Gitau, and thank you, Bob. I'm only commenting on the auction because Barak mentioned it. So those in the room and those watching us online, so we opened up for an auction, and it's on auction. Can I remember the URL? But it's on our website. It can land you there. And I know we are going to come to monetization later, and those who are domainers or investors, this is an opportunity. As you go for break, be aware and share with those people who believe in this asset class. It's an emerging asset class for us, even as we think about 2026 and the generic stuff, because the competition is stiff for these names. And I didn't tell you this, but mambonimatatu.ke is available.
Okay.
So auctions has been one of the, I think, innovative ways of exploiting the economic value out of names. On the global stage or at ICANN level, we've had auctions that, I don't know if Barak is in the room. So we've had names that have been auctioned for over $100 million. $30 million. .wine, I think, went for 25 million. I think .app went for 25 million as well. In other words, names have significant value, and there are people who take these names and sit on them. There's a term you use which I don't want to use, but yes, you can look at a name and they call it chini ya maji. You know, acquire the name and then present it to the people that didn't know that their name existed somewhere, and you negotiate your way around it. So that is a value that is inherent in names. And I think KE, and if you quote me, I will deny, has got some very interesting name combinations that if you are strategic around them, I believe they can make surprises.
I understand there's a question online.
Hi everyone, my name is Doreen, the marketing executive at Kennick. Someone asks online, in recent history, we have seen internet infrastructure play a critical role in wars, both conventional or otherwise. Example, Russia and Ukraine, USA and China. What are you doing to mitigate the effects of this?
I'm sure this is to the CEO. Did he take off? Okay, what can I say? So, as far as ICANN is concerned, so ICANN is strictly apolitical. That is why, for example, you cannot come and say that we want .ru. We know what .ru is, isn't it? To be offline or to be taken out of the internet. That was attempted. But unfortunately, we can't just do that because we don't involve in politics. So if it is something that is under the mandate of ICANN, then it will be guided by the rules and policies that are made by the ICANN community, which governments are part of. And it is not ICANN's place to implement the wish of a specific government or stakeholder group. It is always the policy or the consensus policy that comes out of the entire ICANN community. And that is why .ru is on the internet today. ICANN received requests to take that out of the internet from different governments, and we couldn't simply do that. So it is really what is within our mandate, and it's strictly guided by the ICANN policy and processes that come from our community. And governments, like any other stakeholders, are just part of that stakeholders. With one on equal footing. So, governments might want this, but if technical community feel differently or if civil society feel differently, then they have to agree. And it is after they have agreed that we shall implement.
Thank you very much, Bob. I must really thank you for your great insights and information. I don't want to see anybody going into safe mode, so we'll go for a tea break, and then we'll be back in exactly 20 minutes. Or do we continue? You seem like you want to continue. No, let's take a break, 20 minutes, and then we'll be back. Thank you very much.
We started in Kwanza, I think everyone had doubts, even the National Treasury, so they were giving us very minimal amounts.
It was one of the projects that were captured in the Vision 2030 document, which actually was development blueprint for the government of Kenya.
So we had an interim structure which once was approved by the ministry, we started the process of staffing that structure.
In the journey of Konza Technopolis, this is really a great milestone. We have worked on this project with the vision of having an excellent place to work, to live and to play.
It's a very futuristic concept because this has not been done before.
We are now very confident and to be able to engage the rest of the public who could be keen to be part of Konza.
Konza Technopolis has been designed to host 200,000 population at full build out of the 500 acres. We've come up with green standards to ensure that our city comes out as green with no emissions of carbon to the environment.
It's a city like no other, planned from ground zero.
This will set an example that it is possible to do a city which is well planned and which is organized.
Seeing a city from scratch being constructed and being part of it is something that excites me, it excites the women, it excites the people that we are representing.
It is now good that we bring those developers and the financials so that they can start discussions and they can start preparing the next step of Konza Technopolis.
We as government have set the example by actually not requesting other people to come and invest, but actually to be the first investors.
It's us guys now to come in and try to see how to facilitate the financing for the developers so that they're able to develop whatever that they want, their concepts. Property developers have actually that mentality that this was a white elephant is going, and that means that now they are able to move to the next level of seeking financing.
Konza Complex being our head office, this is a great milestone in our journey.
I'm very happy as an architect actually to see the first product of a building being ready and it's now being occupied and operations have started on it.
We are now in a better position to engage with the project in terms of what's going on here, which mainly currently horizontal infrastructure is ongoing.
We believe all things going well, we should be able to complete this project in February 2022 as per the schedule by the contractor.
I see a very bright future for Konza Technopolis and for Konza City as a whole.
Konza City is going to grow. Looking at what is happening on the ground and the people who have shown interest, the organizations which are showing interest, I believe that is a dream which is achievable, and in the near future, so many of us are going to relocate to Konza.
My fellow investors and Kenyans at large is to come on board and help our government in creating projects which will help us in achieving our goal of creating employment, which is very much needed to our economy.
I really want the city to be a hub within the region where we have ICTs, global companies coming in, partnering with the local companies, providing opportunity to our young people so that they can learn from these established companies.
Karibu sana as we carry out this engineering feats, first of its kind in Africa, and more importantly, a first for Kenya.
To all our stakeholders who are looking for an excellent location to invest in support of the Big Four of our government, and also to take advantage of the Kenyan market, to say Konza Technopolis is an excellent location.
At the ground, we say mambo ni sawa.
We are asking you to join us as we embark on a new ethos that is really birthed in you and the services that we offer you.
Because you have spoken, we've seen it fit to rebrand ourselves, not just to provide internet services. What we have in mind is, now that you have the internet services, what else can you do with that?
We have got the vision of a digitally connected future.
that leaves no African behind.
We've evolved from being a telecoms company to a technologies company.
So essentially we are saying each and every one of us who is African, we have got you in mind. We need to ensure that as we are looking at this digitally connected future, we are not leaving anyone behind.
So as part of Liquid Intelligent Technologies brand, we have sub-brands that we have. The first being Liquid Business, Cloud, Cybersecurity, Liquid Home, the Liquid Labs, Liquid Networks, Liquid Satellite, Liquid Sea.
So as we are in this connectivity journey, we are then able to ensure that we are providing the necessary security that is required as you do your day-to-day business.
So we're not going to be giving you generic solutions, but we're actually going to be customizing solutions that are aligned with your business needs.
We're actually embracing digital now. We're actually in the now.
Think technology, think liquid. Think technology, think liquid.
So we are saying we are bringing this together to you to ensure that everything happens under one roof.
It's no longer just about our product offering, but it's really about us coming to you and asking you, what can we do for you? Africa's digital future is an intelligent one.
My name is Andrew Mwanyota. I am the CEO of the Kenya Network Information Center, KENIC. KENIC was founded in '93 as a public-private partnership to support what we call the country code top-level domain, .ke, to allow as many Kenyans as possible to go online and to benefit from having a presence online, whether you're an individual or a business. And so 20 years on, KENIC continues to promote, secure, and avail the .ke domain for use by businesses and individuals. And we are happy today to have met to recognize what we call our registrars who help us to avail .ke domains for the public, and they are the channel through which we sell .ke domains. And today we've been able to recognize 7 categories for all our registrars as part of motivating them to be able to grow the domain system in Kenya. Finally, we are also very excited that for the very first time in many years, .ke has grown in leaps and bounds, with over 102,000 domains currently active in the country. It is our intention in the next couple of years to continue growing the domain space, but most importantly, ensuring we build trust for all our online users in Kenya. So all we can do is to thank our ecosystem of players, thank our customers for standing with .ke, because it's our brand. It is about building Kenya's brand, but more importantly, succeeding on the internet. Thank you very much.
My name is Geoffrey Shimanyula. I am the chair of the board of KENIC. KENIC, as we all know, is the registrar. Now, the registry for .ke domain. In Kenya, we are the people who ensure that we are perpetually pushing our brand .ke. And today has been a great day for us, a big day for the industry, because we were rewarding and awarding our best performing registrars in the country across board, just to appreciate the good work they're doing and to encourage them to continue pushing the .ke domain. Again, today is one of those days that we are actually celebrating a very big milestone, because as we close the year 2022, for the first time, we crossed the year with 100 100,000 domain names active, up and running. And our challenge now is to ensure that we have this sort of growth on an annual basis. When you talk about registries all over the world, and specifically in Africa, our biggest challenge has been how to sustain domain names that are registered. We are all battling with the challenge of deletions, whereby people register a domain name and upon expiry, they never renew it. Our challenge as KENIC is to ensure that domain names that are registered are renewed so that we can see growth each and every day. This way, from the Kenyan perspective, we believe that we'll be playing our role in the technology ecosystem as the government embraces the digital economy blueprint. We will be there to play our role. Thank you.
My name is Charity Wamboi Kiora. I work for Kenya Website Experts. We are registrars for domain names and we offer other online services. We became a KENIC accredited registrar by first applying to KENIC to become a registrar. We filled in the registration forms and we supplied all the required documents. Our application was reviewed and our accreditation was approved and we became accredited registrar. And then after that, we were trained on how to use the registry services. We chose to become domain name registrars after we realized there's a demand for .ke domain names, and initially we were only offering other online services. We recommend our customers to register .ke domains because, 1, to have a Kenyan identity, 2, most of the short, memorable, and catchy domain names are available for registration, and 3, .ke domain names are affordable.
Yes, we're delighted to be here at Tamarind. Day one has been exciting. We have been able to look at the twin theme on cybersecurity and the opportunities that we can unleash through the domain name system.
Just being part of the forum, I think this forum is very informative. I've really learned a lot and also shared a lot with different stakeholders and partners that were in.
It has been good. It has been a great platform or event whereby we have, it has given more insights into the DNS spectrum.
It has emerged also that we have to look at it in a three-way, where we look at the technology, the people and the processes around cybersecurity to ensure that we meet the needs of all the digital citizens going online.
So my urge is for everybody who has any sort, even the slightest interest in the internet ecosystem, in domains, login. There's a lot of insights, there's a lot of information being shared. All the people who are taking part really are the experts in their field. So I would urge each and every person to register, come on